Hello, welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. Today I am working on Scraplift Crafternoon and I am combining it with today's Scraptember prompt, which is family. Now I do not have photos of my entire family because to get all of my kids together to get a family photo would be nearly impossible. So I decided to work on a layout from the cruise I took with my sister in February. And I've printed out 3 photos from Formal Night, and I've pulled out the same collection that Karen used in her lift, or in her layout that we are lifting rather, but I had to pull in some other things. So this came from a farmhouse paper pad. I believe it is a paper studio pad. And this piece of paper is actually from my August counterfeit kit. It is one of the papers from the actual inspiration kit because it was a digital kit and I printed a couple of the mixed media papers. This is one that I printed. I did not have a black and white polka dot paper in this collection. I pulled out some different papers than Karen used as well, so my layout is not going to be exactly like hers because I've used quite a bit of what she used on her layout already, and so I'm just pulling in bits and pieces to kind of make it work. I also pulled in some of my Illustrated Faith journaling labels so that I could journal on this page, and I pre-cut this piece and one other piece as well. I can find it here. But you'll note that I have already cut off the edge of this one because I've used this paper on another layout already, and so I was just kind of making do with what I had on hand. I also pulled in the stickers from the collection, some of the enamel dots. These are the matte finish ones, which are really awesome, and then these are just the regular glossy ones from the same collection. My title piece is not from this collection. It is from the Happy Hearts collection here, and I thought that this title was more appropriate for my photos than the title that Karen used for her photos. Her title was appropriate for hers. Because this is a summer collection, I'm having to be very careful what I use from it because these photos were taken in February on a cruise, and while we were enjoying summer type weather on the cruise, it was definitely not summer. And so I'm just going to kind of build this layout as close as I can to Karen's. I really love her layout and I am going to enjoy scrap lifting it, but I am going to have to go a tad bit rogue because of the difference in product and difference in photo theme and story. So I'm going to pause. We're going to get started with this. I will be right back. All right, I'm ready to go, but first I have to occupy Jasper because he has decided that he needs to sit right here in my space where I'm trying to work. So I opened up the blind and then kind of pushed him towards the windowsill so that he would sit there rather than sit on my space. Well, I guess that windowsill wasn't good enough, so he's going to walk across the table to the other windowsill. So first thing I'm going to do, because I'm using the wood grain as a mat around these other 2 layers of pattern paper, I'm going to cut down these layers. The green pattern paper, I'm going to be using that. I cut down 1 inch off one side and 1 inch off another. And then for the white cardstock with the black dots, I am going to be cutting it down to 1 1/4 inches on one side and 1 1/4 inch on the other side. That way I can layer these up and have that wood grain as a mat. Next, I am cutting down this cut apart page. And I know it probably doesn't look like I have any rhyme or reason, but I do. I'm trying to make sure I don't cut into something that I want to use. And then I'm just going to cut apart all of the papers, take off the branding strip, make sure that I have all of the pieces cut down, and then I will kind of lay them aside because I'm going to use some of these, but I'm not going to use all of them, obviously. I'm going to put the rest of them back in with the collection to be used another time. So I don't know for sure which ones I'm using. I know which one I wanted to start with, but I don't know how they're going to stack up for me. And because Karen used a different piece on hers, I'm going to be making things up as I go, and so you're going to get to see me build like a strip of paper with cut aparts here in a little bit. So now that I've got all of these cut apart, I'm going to go ahead and get these papers matted together so that I'm ready to get started. Now, I did notice that Karen had a different, had another layer of paper in hers, and I'm not going to be doing that because I felt like mine was going to be thick enough with all of the layers that I've created here. Plus, I'm going to be layering some of those cut aparts on another piece of cardstock, and I just felt like I was going to have enough thickness there, so I didn't really want to add more. I am going to be matting my 3 photos onto this light blue scrap of cardstock. I have some scraps kind of within reach, and that this color was close enough to the blue, just a lighter shade, so I'm going to use that. I'm leaving a space in between each photo just to kind of give the illusion of them being individually matted when they're matted on a single strip of paper. Now my photos are 3 by 4-ish, and I say ish because one of them didn't print correctly, and so I had to cut 1/8 of an inch off the other 2 so that they would all be the same height. And I think I mentioned that these were photos taken on one of the formal nights on the cruise. I put a photo of one of the meals that we had eaten that day in between the 2 photos of the 2 of us, because I'm telling a story about formal night. I wanted to make sure that I included food because we were in the main dining room on the cruise. So I know that Karen used both of the strips that said "Say I Love You Always" on them. I think I've already mentioned at the beginning of the video that I had cut down this pattern paper for a previous layout, so one piece isn't whole, but it's going to be okay because on Karen's layout it looked like hers was tucked under and you couldn't see all of the side of hers, and so that worked out pretty well. So what I'm doing here is I have a scrap of white cardstock and I'm building another strip with the cut aparts because I didn't have whole strips of the one that Karen used on hers. I wanted to kind of simulate that, and I'm just kind of building these up and using what I have on hand. It does use up a few of the scraps that I had from the previous layout, as well as some of the cut aparts that I have that I'm just kind of cutting down. You're going to notice too that I am just kind of working as I go. This particular cut apart, I'm taking the words off of it. I felt like there's enough words on this layout without adding more. So I'm only going to use the palm trees on it. And then I'm going to take the piece that I'm playing with here, and I think it ends up at the top. Or maybe no, it's going to end up where I've stuck it. There's another piece coming in. I'm going to, I have a sticker that I'm going to use. It's about the right width, but not quite. So I'm going to peel it off here in a minute, but I'm going to put it on another piece of paper and trim it down so that it looks like it's just one single piece. So that's what I'm doing here. And the trick I'm going to use here is I'm going to stick it on here. I'm going to line it up, and then I'm going to use my thumbnail to dent the paper. For me, this works better than dragging out a ruler. It's faster, and honestly, a lot of times it's more accurate than me trying to play with a ruler. I don't don't know what it is with me and rulers this week, but I'm having trouble. So I just decided to do that. It's just a way that I have kind of always done small things like this. And I'm going to trim off the white on the one side, and then I'm going to trim off all those hanging off bits. I didn't quite cut through that piece of cardstock there, so I trimmed it off with my scissors. I'm going to cut down this one, the orange piece, just a little bit because it's too tall to fit on my trimmer fully, so I'm just going to make it easier for myself and trim off a little bit of it, and then I'm going to take the trimmer and cut off the rest. So now I've got all these little scraps. I'm going to get rid of those, move those off to the side, and start moving other things out of my way so that I can finish this layout. I know that I said that I was trying not to go rogue with this layout. I really liked Karen's layout, and I really wanted to do it justice. And since I didn't have everything the same as she did, I'm just kind of doing the best that I can with what I have. Now, I don't know if you saw in the beginning when I laid down my 3 photos, I kind of tacked it in the middle, and I did that because I knew that I was going to be tucking things, and I wanted to make sure that I had the ability to tuck easily. So this one piece that I built up, it's kind of laying diagonally across the page a little bit. It's hanging over in bits and pieces, and off camera I will trim it down with scissors and get the pieces that are hanging off the edge. I will trim off with my trimmer. That way everything is level. Next up, I'm building this little cluster down here in that lower right hand corner. I am using the same tag that she used, but she had one of the little ephemera pieces that it had a little quote on it, and I decided that that quote wasn't going to work for me. And so I decided to use it as a base for my journaling labels. And so I'm going to cut out a green one and a pink journaling label and use those on the layout. The colors aren't exact. They're not an exact match to the Pink Fresh Studios collection, but they're close enough as far as I am concerned. And I'm going to use those to journal. So I'll be tucking them down there on top of that little tag. Like I said, it's the same tag that Karen used on her layout. I'm going to stagger them. I've got my title on there, Unforgettable Moments. That's going to be laying down there. And now I'm just going to kind of add some ephemera here and there, make some decisions, scooch things around. I start with this banner piece with a phrase, and it doesn't end up on the layout. I do take that off. I saw this little postage stamp sticker, and I tuck it underneath my tag down there where my journaling labels are. And now I believe I found another phrase, and I'm going to kind of stick on that piece that I built to mimic the one that was on Karen's layout. I'm kind of still digging through those stickers a little bit. I found my floral ephemera that I have a mess off to the right of my table, and so it got kind of jumbled up with the mess that is already over there that needed to be cleaned. No worries, I cleaned it after this video so that it wasn't such a disaster. Now I added a phrase on top of that floral ephemera piece, and I'm pretty happy with how things are going so far. I'm going to cut out this yellow frame here, and I'm going to tuck it underneath and kind of line it up with that third piece to make it look like it's part of it. And I do pretty well with that, and I like that because there was too much white space down there, and I just didn't want that much white space down there in that lower corner. I realize that it matches the white space up in the upper right-hand corner, but I just didn't want it down there. I felt like, I don't know, I felt like it was just glaring at me, and I wanted to put something there. So now I'm going to open up this floral ephemera pack and kind of dig through it because I didn't think I was going to be using anything from that pack, so I didn't set anything out. I found a floral piece of ephemera that I want to tuck down there on that lower right, and a leaf. That's a Monstera leaf, and I'm going to tuck that down there as well. And I believe I find a second one here in a minute. Yes, I do. I see it. I'm trading out my floral piece because I decided I liked that color better. I have another Monstera leaf, and I'm going to stick that up there. And for me, I think that pretty much does it for the embellishment on this layout. Next up, I have gone off camera and I have trimmed down those pieces that I built so that it's not going across the top of that wood grain on the top. I wanted it to be level with the other two mats. I am adding some of the enamel dots on my layout, not a lot, but a few. And this is more or less just me trying to use up some of these enamel dots from this collection because I have them and because I don't want them to just sit there. And so I'm going to add a few here and there, just kind of little pops of color here and there. Next up, I'm going to grab my white linen, or no, I think I grabbed Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide spray, and I'm going to use it to splatter. So I've covered up my photos a little bit, and I've glued everything down on this layout, and I've already included the journaling. So all I have to do is get the splatters on here, and I will be done with this layout. I'm pretty happy with the way that it turned out. Alright, I got my layout completely done. My splatters are still a little bit wet, but that is okay. I've got my journaling written, and I'm pretty happy with the way that this turned out. It's not exactly like Karen's, but I feel like it is a very decent scrap lift of her layout. I really loved her layout, and I wanted to do it justice. Karen, I hope that you have a very happy birthday this month, and I hope that you do something for yourself this month because you deserve it, girl. I want to thank you for coming to my channel today. Make sure you check out that description box. I create a playlist each week for our videos, so there is a playlist linked down there below. I have also linked our channels and our Instagram accounts below because I know a few of us scrap without doing videos, and we post those on Instagram, so make sure that you do that. And I know at the end of the month several of us do a layout share. I don't always do that, but some months I do. I know Christine does, and I know Kristen does. So make sure that you check out their YouTube channels and wait and get their September layout share because you'll be amazed by all of the wonderful creations that these ladies do. I want to thank you again for being here. If you have any comments or questions about this layout, drop them below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. You guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Bye.